Julia watched Philip sleep, his face slack and pale against the worn pillow. She felt deep guilt again. She had dragged him into this, into the swirling darkness of her addiction. He had been trying to save her, and she, in turn, had nearly destroyed him. Quietly, she slipped out of his apartment, the air heavy with the spirit of cocaine. Her own apartment, when she arrived, felt foreign, tainted by her recent absence. She roamed through the cramped rooms. The remnants of her past life lay scattered. A forgotten joint, cigarette paper tucked away in a drawer, a couple of grams of cocaine in little bags. With a grim satisfaction, she gathered it all. One by one, she sent the paraphernalia swirling down the toilet, watching as her demons were flushed away. Afterward, she scrubbed her apartment clean, washed her clothes, and the scent of lemon and bleach somehow refreshed the flat. It was a symbolic cleansing, a desperate attempt to wash away the grime of her old life and prepare for a new one. The daylight was already beginning to dip towards the horizon when Julia packed a bag with her belongings. Her favorite jacket, a couple of her t-shirts, a sweater, a pair of jeans, her toothbrush, and a pair of pajamas. Then, fueled by a fragile hope, she headed back to Philip's place, her steps quick and determined. But his apartment was empty. Jeremy greeted her with the news that Philip had recently left home. An icy fist clenched around her heart. Had the brief respite of sleep been merely a pause before diving back into the abyss? The image of him, chasing the fleeting high, filled her mind, sharp and agonizing. Panic clawed at her throat. She almost turned around, ready to scour the streets, but she forced herself to take a deep breath. Think, Julia, think. She pulled out her phone and dialed his number. After a few rings he answered, his voice groggy. "Philip?" she asked, her voice trembling despite her best efforts. "Where are you?" "Just down the street. Walking," he mumbled. "Needed some air." Relief washed over her, so potent it almost buckled her knees. "I'm coming." 10 minutes, she said and hung up. Before heading to find the man, Julia detoured to a nearby grocery store. She grabbed a few basic necessities: eggs, bread, milk, and some fresh fruit. The sight of the colorful produce felt strangely comforting, a symbol of life and nourishment. When she went back, she found Philip standing near the entrance, leaning against the brick wall, his hands shoved deep into his pockets. He looked exhausted, the shadows under his eyes even darker than before. Back at his apartment, she carefully arranged the groceries in his sparsely stocked refrigerator. When she finished, she turned to the man. "I brought some of my things." She paused, her heart pounding. I want to stay, Philip. If you'll let me." He looked at her, his expression unreadable. Then, a slow smile spread across his face. "I'd like that very much. I flushed everything," she blurted out, wanting him to know she was serious. "Everything I had." He nodded, his eyes searching hers. "I feel better," he said quietly. "Just need some rest." Julia stepped closer, her hand reaching out to touch his arm. "I won't," she said, her voice firm. "I won't use it again, Philip. Not if you don't." He looked at her, his eyes shining with a mixture of guilt and fear. "It was just a one-time thing," he said, his voice wavering. "The cocaine. It won't happen again." Julia wanted to believe him, desperately. She saw the genuine pain in his eyes, the regret that mirrored her own. She had to trust him. "Okay," she said, squeezing his arm. "I believe you. Did some shopping too. I brought you some food, it's in your fridge," she continued, trying to inject a lighter tone into the conversation. "And I'm going to leave you alone now and let you rest." He paused. "I'm going to go to some store and make more spare keys to your apartment soon so I don't have to use yours." Julia hesitated there, then continued. "And I'm going to ask you something else as well." "Yeah," Philip asked. "I'm going to ask you to stop experimenting with the vaccine, okay? Those things are really bad for you," she said. "Okay. You are right. I will stop it. I promise," Philip replied. They stood in the hallway, bathed in the warm glow of the setting sun. The air vibrated with heavy emotions, with hope and fear, with the fragile promise of a new beginning. They hugged, a long, silent embrace that conveyed more than words ever could. They said goodbye until tomorrow. They will meet tomorrow afternoon at Philip's place after work. Philip leaned against the door of his apartment, his head swimming. Julia. She was here. Really here. The thought sent a jolt of energy through him, momentarily eclipsing the lingering exhaustion. He walked over to the fridge, opening it to find it stocked with food. He smiled. It was a small gesture, but it meant the world. He knew he had made a promise to Julia, a promise to stay sober. But it was more than that. He had made a promise to himself. He had seen the darkness, felt the pull of addiction, and he knew he couldn't go back. He wouldn't allow it. He wanted to be the man Julia deserved, the man he knew he could be. He owed it to her, and he owed it to himself, to fight for a life free from the grip of addiction. The vaccine was not important, Julia was. He walked to his desk, where notes were scattered amidst research papers. With a sigh, he gathered them all, carefully placing them in a box. He would deal with them later, dispose of them properly. For now he needed to rest. He needed to gather his strength. He needed to be ready for Julia, for their new beginning. He lay down on his bed, the scent of her perfume lingering in the air. As he drifted off to sleep, he clung to the image of her face. Her eyes were full of hope and determination. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but with Julia by his side, he believed they could make it. They would make it.